This is what we're going to take a closer look at. 4,000 years of human history and some pretty spectacular finds. Welcome back to the frosty fields of Perthshire in bonny Scotland. And boy, have I got a treat for you today. No metal detecting, but tomorrow I am off to the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh, which is the biggest museum in Scotland. And I'm going to be doing a handover with some of my best finds over the last 12 months or so. There'll also be one or two older items from previous digs as well. Now, they're not going to let me film inside the museum, but what I can do is I can do a little video just now to show you the best of the best from the last 12 months or so of detecting. We've got over 4,000 years of human history, and I'm sure some of you will be pretty impressed by some of the items. So let's go and have a look. And what I'll do is I will film them in the light box so that you get to see them at their very best. So don't go anywhere. So let us begin with an item so big that I can barely fit it in the light box. This, as many of you will remember, is the Holy Grail, as I called it. So it's from the medieval church site, and it's some sort of urn, I believe. It's got a crack in it. Up here you can see. I think there's another one on the other side. And it was full of mud, and I think it's been stone picked. So the tractor had been through the field, a bit of machinery in the past, pulling out all the pebbles and stones, and this was in the pile. So I think you've all identified it. The flowers are irises, and the belief is that it's probably from maybe about 1920, 1930. It's some sort of lead alloy or pewter, and it would have had a lid, which so far I haven't found, but maybe it'll turn up soon. So I'm going to take this one to the museum. They were quite impressed by it, so we'll see what they have to say. Next up is every metal detectorist's frequent find, which is lead. But these are bits of lead that are a bit more interesting than your usual bits of lead, because they all seem to have a purpose. Whether it's this here, which is a sort of decorated diamond shape lozenge, which must have been mounted on something. No idea what sort of date it is, but most of these finds here are from my Roman site. So I'm hoping that some of them are going to be potentially a few thousand years old. We've got weights. So this one here has got a little stamp on the bottom, little decoration. You can see it's had an iron loop on the top, so it's probably a steel yard for weighing out goods. Another example of a weight right here. This one's a sort of beehive kind of shape. You can see it's got a hole that goes all the way through. So again, it's probably been suspended from a loop. And then a different style of weights. These ones here, almost like coins. But again, they must have been used for weighing out certain goods. This one's an absolute monster. Weighs many ounces. And also, one thing that I found quite a lot of over the years, palm guards. So this is from leather working. You'll have seen a few of these over previous videos, and I'm sure you'll see them again in the future. And then finally, the remnants of people metal working. These are sprues. So these are the spouts of people pouring lead into moulds. So maybe making palm guards or lead weights. And this is the cast off, effectively, the waste piece of working with lead. So that's the lead. We're still on the lead, but this is interesting lead, even more interesting than the weights and such like. So we've got examples of flax seals, which are normally from the 1800s. I've had quite a lot of them over the years. We've got a little sort of tool here with a little hole in the end, which is from the Roman field. And I'm not sure. Could be Roman. so it could be a few thousand years old. I'm not quite sure on its purpose, but maybe for stitching or such like. We've also got this curious little thing, which is a little bit like a strap end. A couple of holes in the end, a bit of decoration on it, a little cross, little dots. Quite common, we seem to get a lot of crosses and dots on things. Another example here. This is a spindle whorl, so this is for spinning rough wool into thread or into yarn so that you can knit or produce fabrics from it. Then another curious little, I don't know if it's a weight or a pommel off of a knife, but it's lead. It's got this little recess, flat edge on it, so it's another interesting little piece. And zoom you in just a wee touch. We have a little crown, a little lead crown, unfortunately broken, but could have a bit of age to it. Interesting. And then some sort of curious decorated. This one has got an IV, which would be 5 in Roman numerals. Either that or it's an AI, it's artificial intelligence. Not sure what it is, some sort of stamp by the look of it. This bit of lead's got a curious little bit of decoration down the side here. Again, we'll add that in. And then one of the most interesting finds I think I've ever made. This little character. Now I'm really interested to see what they think about this, because I think this is Roman. I think this could be 1st, 2nd century, and it's flat on the back, but it is clearly a little person, a little figure. So I would be really interested to see. I always think of the film, if you remember Gladiator, where he's got a little miniature temple and he's got his family represented. So I do often wonder if that's what that could be. This is a curious little thing as well. It's possibly a little gaming piece. You can see it's got a little shape to it, plain on the back, but it's got these little dots and crosses on this side, and it stands up as well. So I wonder if it might have been part of a board game maybe. This here is again another decorated piece. Not sure what it's supposed to be, but it is another lump of lead. And then we've got some dice. So they're identical in terms of the dots are in the wrong places. So I think each side's supposed to add up to 7, if I remember rightly, when you opposite sides add together. And these ones do not. Unfortunately, one of them's a bit damaged, but 3 die, or 3 dice. Date unknown, but it would be great if they were Roman. So there you are. That is the extent of some of the interesting lead finds. This is a wee selection of copper alloy finds. I'm not really sure what a lot of them are. I think we've got some pokers here for fires, but again, if in doubt, you need to report things. Not sure what this is, but it is from the Roman site, so I've just decided to throw it in there. A couple of little loops. Fragments of pot, again from the Roman site. You can see it's been some sort of cooking pot or vessel. There's another one there at the top right. This is another wee interesting thing, a little toy cannon. So Georgian probably, little child's toy. You can see the shape of the cannon. Interestingly, that's where bollards get their shape from. You know, if you see bollards in the cities like Edinburgh or London, they're the shape of a cannon. And the reason for that is that the British defeated, I think it was the French or the Dutch, captured loads of cannons, didn't really know what to do with them, and they sunk them in the ground as bollards for traffic. And that's the reason why bollards are shaped like cannons, if you didn't know that. This is a potential little stylus, little bronze copper alloy stylus, maybe for writing in wax. And what I think is a shape for a dagger. So this would have been leather at the top here, up where my finger is, and at the bottom end would have been copper alloy, and this was to stop you stabbing yourself with the knife when you put it in the sheath. So that's part of the sheath of a knife. May well be medieval, but that's another wee selection of unknown items. This is a little collection of tokens and tallies, which are all made of lead, which have come off one field in particular, which is the one with the old fort and settlement, which dates back to the 11th century, the early 12th century. So I don't know how old these are. There's been lots of speculation, 1700s, 1800s, but some people have said, well, it could be 16, 15, 14, even 1300s. But there are more of them. This is not all of the items that I will be reporting to the museum. There will be many more, but it's going to be done in little tranches of finds because there's just too much for me to put it all in at once. You saw just how much stuff there was on that first video. Metal detecting isn't just about detecting metal, it's also about keeping your eyes open for eyes only finds, non-metallic. So this is a clay pipe. It's covered in Masonic imagery. The Masons, the secret society. But there's the temple and the all-seeing eye above it. And I'm guessing this is probably Victorian in date. As you can see, the mud's still in it. But yeah, probably Victorian 1850, 1900. And this one here is relevant to Mr. Rabbie Burns, Robert Burns, our national bard. So he is the national poet of Scotland. Robert Burns lived in the 1700s, born in Ayrshire. And it says on it, "For Auld Lang Syne." So if you know the song at New Year that many sing, "For Auld Lang Syne, my dear," well, it was written by Robert Burns. And then there is also the oldest item here, which is a fragment of stone. Or well, to be precise, it's flint. So flint is not natural in Scotland, so this has come from probably the middle or the south of England. And this could be, well, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years old, potentially. So a very interesting find, and the oldest item that I've got. Two potentially very, very old items. This, I believe, is a fragment of a rapier or a sword, a short sword. And this is Bronze Age in date, which means it's probably around about 3,000 years old. And this is the lower fragment. This area just where my thumb is would have been the handle. And you can see it's gone up into a kind of leaf shape. And it seems quite common that they have these little dots either side, these little decorative items. This is another item which I think is going to turn out to be Bronze Age as well. Now it's either part of a spear or part of a sword, again, from a different site. But you can see it's got that very old greenish look to it, which often tells you that it is pretty old. So if it is, I think it's going to be 3,000 to 4,000 years old for both of these pieces. This is another really intriguing and also eyes only find, which got you all talking when I found this probably about a year ago, give or take. You can see there is an early Celtic Christian cross on there with dots at various quarters of the cross. And on the back, it's got this lovely smooth area, which is like either someone's constantly rubbed their thumb, like I'm doing, or it's been used on maybe leather or some sort of fabric. But it is very, very smooth. It's also very, very tactile, very easy to fit in your hand. And there's some suggestion that this could be early Christian, early Celtic Christian, maybe going back to the 6th or 7th or 8th centuries. So this little item could well be in excess of 1,000 years old. So I'm really intrigued to see what the museum might make of that. This is another mishmash of finds of potentially all kinds of ages. Most intriguing, I think, is this little fella here, which is a little fish. And each of the scales on the fish are individually hand stamped. So it's not been machine produced. And to me, well, it's got a very Viking sort of feel to it, is it not? And I've never found anything Viking before, but I know there's been some Viking discoveries in Fife, which is not far from Perthshire. So anything is possible. Also took it to the jeweller and he tested it and it is silver, well, part silver. So who knows on that one? I'll be really interested to hear. Another very, very beautiful find is this here, which is a little button. You can see the two love hearts with the crown above it, and this is to commemorate the marriage of Catherine of Braganza to King Charles, and dates back to the 1600s. So a beautiful little silver button, and I think very rare as well, or quite rare. Certainly I couldn't find any examples being found in Scotland before, but I'm sure there's probably one or two. And then as well as that, we've got a selection of little buttons, little buckles, some of which could be many hundreds of years old, some could be even older. Now, this is another interesting little thing. This is a little bell, and I think, based on what some of the subscribers to the channel have said, that this could be a hawking bell. So this would have been attached to a bird of prey, like a peregrine falcon or such like. And it would jingle, if you think, when you see the people doing hawks or hawking with the big leather gauntlet. Often the bird of prey's got a little set of tassels on it with bells. So I think that's possibly what that could be. So another interesting find. Beautiful button with a wolf or a dog on it. Probably a livery button from the 17 or early 1800s. Another bit of flint, which again could be potentially thousands of years old. A few buttons, a few bits and pieces, but this as well is another intriguing item. Just got this a few weeks ago. So this is a great big bronze or copper alloy ring, and could have a bit of age to it. So I'll be interested to see what the museum think of that. This is the last wee collection before we get on to all the coins. Now, I'm sure many of you will recognise this great big medal, which is from Copenhagen, 1872, which I got again just a few weeks ago. A very unusual, very interesting find. Now, I know a lot of you will recognise this. This is a silver ingot. At least we believe it's a silver ingot, but as you can see, it has got some decoration on it. So interestingly, it is a measurement. It weighs a unit of Roman measurement. It's equal. So it'd be interesting to see if it could be Roman. It's got a cross, it's got some stars and stamps on it. Oh, focus. And it's kind of been hacked off the end there as well. So I'm really keen to see what the museum think of that. They're going to do some sort of fluorescence test on it, which should tell them what the base metal content is, and that will give them some kind of indication as to how old it could be, or at least where the silver has come from. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. It'd be lovely if that is from the Roman or Iron Age period. And then some fragments of silver, fragments of possibly tools. This one's got little dots on it, maybe part of a brooch even. This is a piece of twisted silver, date, purpose unknown. Another wee piece here which has got a little loop on the end, just there. Not really sure, it looks like something's broken off the end. It was maybe more like this shape originally. This is some sort of needle or tool, but you can see there's a couple of holes in the end. In fact, it's only one hole. Someone's tried to make another hole and failed. But yeah, probably some sort of needle, I would think. This is a cross, which could be old, don't really know. Silver by the looks of it, and it's from the old medieval church site. And then this here, which at the time I didn't really think much of it, but as you can see, it's a very, very vibrant gold colour. Now, it was actually like that on the back as well, but it's dropped off, so it's clearly plated. But such a vibrant colour that I just thought, well, let's include that as well, see what they think. One of my favourite things to find, Roman coinage. So these are all Roman coins. In the centre there are 10, which are all silver denarii. This one's a real beauty. Now this is the Emperor Hadrian, who in 122 AD made them build Hadrian's Wall across the north of England between modern day Carlisle and Newcastle. 80 Roman miles long, 73 miles today. It goes from, I think it's Barrow in Furness, which is near Carlisle, and it runs to Wallsend, which is near Newcastle. So 73 miles, and incredibly the Romans built it in only 6 years. Mostly built in stone when it was originally built. They then updated the western side, which was built in turf, and they built that in stone as well. One of the great wonders of the world, still exists today. You can go and visit parts of it. So 10 silver denarii, all from the 1st and 2nd centuries. Now this is just a fragment, a fraction of the number of Roman coins we've had off this particular Roman site. We've had over 300 silver Roman coins, 300 over the last 20 odd years, 25 years of metal detecting. And as you can see, we also get quite a few little bronze coins. So this is 4th century, and I think is Constantine the Great, this particular one. So from probably around about 320, 330 AD. So we get Roman stuff from all kinds of eras, but the silver tends to be 1st and 2nd century, and the coppers, the bronzes, tend to be 4th century. So clearly something going on over a long period of time. This is actually the oldest coin here. This is a legionary denarius. You can see what looks a bit like a caterpillar on there. That's actually a galleon. That's a ship with all the oars sticking out. And this is from a very famous man from history called Mark Antony. And Mark Antony went on to marry Cleopatra. So this is from about, I think about 43 BC. So this is over 2,000 years old. Apparently these were quite commonly carried by the Romans, because they had, or Roman soldiers, because they were quite a high silver content, but they were also a bit of a good luck charm because of Mark Antony. So there you go, a beautiful selection of Roman coinage. This is a little selection of the copper Scottish coinage. So on some of them, like this one here, you can see the thistle coming through. In fact, it's there as well, but it's at a funny angle. So you'll see the thistle with a crown above it. These bigger coins, these are bawbees, which are Scottish sixpences. So these are from the time of Charles II. You can just make them out there looking to the left. And as I say, a bawbee back in the old days was a sixpence. But unfortunately they're made of copper. The bawbees seem to do better because they're bigger and chunkier. All of the smaller coins, they are all turners, which is 2 pences. This is one of the better ones here. You can see CR, Charles Rex, and 1 2 pence, and Charles II again, so 1660 to 1685. So there's a little selection of Scottish 17th century copper coinage, of which we get loads. And now we start to get on to the really good stuff. Early milled coinage, most of it is silver, and 1 piece is gold, which is this little fella here. So Gorgeous George, my good old friend, always happy to see him, especially in gold and silver. This is a half sovereign. It's got the date on the bottom of 1914. And you've got George and the dragon there as well. So that was from the medieval church site, which produced probably my best days detecting. In fact, definitely my best days detecting I've ever had. So if you want to see a grown man cry, then pop over and watch that. This coin's that heavy I can't even pick it up. It's William III Gavilimus, and he was known as William II of Scotland, and also known as King Billy or William of Orange because he was the stadtholder of the Netherlands. This is a half crown from 1697. Must have been a horrific loss. And as you can see, there's quite a few Williams there. William III's, quite a few of them are love tokens, so they're bent in this particular way, which is a term of endearment for your loved one. Polish the coin and bend it in that particular way. There's also a few really unusual coins, if I can pick them up, which I can. This one is Spanish. It's Carolus Charles III from 1782. And I forget what the denomination of this is, but people have told me that this is struck in Mexico City. So it's made its way from Mexico City, possibly back to Spain, and then to Scotland in 1782 or shortly thereafter. Incredible. And there's also a few coins from France. This is one of the Louis the 16th, I think this was. You can see the fleur-de-lis of France in the shield. And there's another Louis here, which is Louis the 14th. And you can just make out his head there, looking to the right-hand side. And on the reverse, there is a date at the top, which is 1676. So another French coin. There's also a very unusual big, careful. There's also a very big Prussian coin, which is from 1792, from Prussia, a Willem König von something. So there you go. It clearly shows you that Scotland and Perthshire was pretty well connected. Right, let's have a look at the hammered coins. As well as finding Roman coins, finding hammered coins is without doubt one of the best things. This is a big mishmash of coins from various fields, from different sites. A lot of them are from the 13th and early 14th century. We'll give you a wee closer look at some of them just now. This one is a King Henry of England. You can see his little face looking straight at us. This is from the sort of 1240 to 1280 kind of period, and without a doubt the best coin of that era that I've ever found. A chunky little monkey as well. It's a really fat little silver coin, which probably has helped it tremendously to stay in such phenomenal condition. A voided long cross penny. You can see those little lines in between the cross, and that was to allow people to be able to cut the coin up for small change. So you cut it in half or you cut it into quarters. There's another really beautiful coin here. Look at that. And that is Queen Elizabeth I. So it's got a date on it, if I remember rightly. It does. 1567, which is the year that Mary Queen of Scots was forced to abdicate as Queen of Scotland. She was in prison for a year. She managed to escape. She raised an army. She was defeated. And she went to Elizabeth's aid, hoping that Elizabeth, as her cousin, would help to restore her, which she didn't. She locked her up instead for almost 20 years, until she eventually signed her execution papers in 1587 and chopped her head off. And that was the end of poor old Mary Queen of Scots. This is another Elizabeth. This is a sixpence, but unfortunately broken, and the other half has never appeared yet, but one day soon. Maybe. And then lots of coins from the 13th and early 14th century. Lots of what are called long cross pennies. So this one here, Civitas Cantor, City of Canterbury is the mint. And you can see the face of Edward I on there. So sometime probably 1270 to 1305. So from the time of Robert the Bruce and William Wallace. There's another wee European coin here. I believe this is Spanish. It's a Spanish silver coin from the 1400s. So we'll also see what the museum have to say about that. And the star of the show, I think, is this little fella here. So this is Alexander III. You'll see it's stars on the back rather than dots, which all the English coins have on the reverse. And that's because it's a Scottish coin. And we put stars so they could be deciphered, or you could tell the difference which were Scottish and which were English. You can see the bust looking to the left, side on profile. He's holding a little staff, and this is Alexander III. So he ruled until 1286, when he, unfortunately for him, fell off a cliff on his horse while travelling to visit his new wife, who was half his age. And he didn't make it to Yolanda, so he fell off his horse and died at a place called Kinghorn in the Kingdom of Fife. And as a result of his death, Scotland fell into civil war. Edward I of England, Longshanks, took control, this man here, and he then proceeded to encourage people like William Wallace, our very own Braveheart, and Robert the Bruce to rebel. And eventually, Robert the Bruce in 1314, he defeated Edward II at the Battle of Bannockburn, and Scotland regained its independence. But these are all beautiful English coins. Fantastic. So there we go. My collection that's going to be going into the National Museum in Edinburgh tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed having a little look at it. There is a lot more, I should add. That's just what I've managed to catalogue and put together, because it's all got to be individually bagged, it's all got to be labelled, there's got to be a 10-figure grid reference for every item. So that in itself is pretty time consuming. So I need to drive down to Edinburgh tomorrow. Martin hopefully is going to come with me, because he's got an item to collect and another item or two to hand in. So yeah, so all in all, and I know there'll be lots of questions about the treasure trove process, about handing over items to museums in Scotland. Scotland has a separate legal system from England, even though we're part of the UK. So we have our own rules and regulations when it comes to handing over finds. Eventually, when I get a chance, I'll do a video to explain how you report your finds, the process that you have to go through, how long it takes. At the moment, to be quite honest, far too long. It needs to be speeded up. I know they've got a massive backlog as a result of COVID, and I know that they have taken on a lot of new staff, and as a result, things are starting to pick up again. But hopefully they can get a handle on the backlog sooner than later and start to speed up the process. If I could have, I would have filmed the process of the handover. It was something that I asked, but they said no. So they didn't want to set a precedent that whereby anyone who comes would have the right to film. But I do think that it's something that the museum really need to look into, because they need to make the process more transparent. They need to explain to people how it works. And I know that they do watch my videos, so if you're listening, it's an opportunity for you to get me in and explain the process and how it works, because it will help more people to come forward and to report items, which can only be beneficial for everybody. So, as I've said before, there are problems with the system in Scotland. It's not perfect. Where you have humans involved, these things rarely ever are. But as I keep telling people, if you find something, you're not sure of it, you think it might be of interest, report it. Report it, report it, report it, because it's not just about you find it, it's yours. It's about people benefiting for the next generation or multiple generations over what you might find. So if in doubt, send a picture to Treasure Trove. You'll find them on Google, Treasure Trove Scotland, and there's a contact form and an email address, and you can send pictures, and they'll come back to you almost immediately and tell you whether or not they want to see the item or whether it's a piece of a tractor. But if it is, they'll let you down gently. So I've had lots of people send me pictures, private emails of stuff that they've found, and I always encourage people to report items, so definitely do it. So I hope you enjoyed my little video. If you're not already subscribed, then please hit the button. And spoiler alert, there are a few really, really good videos coming up soon. One in particular, which was a phenomenal day of detecting. So stay tuned, they'll be coming very soon. And if you've got any identifications or any information about some of the finds that I've posted in that video, then do let me know. So I hope you enjoyed. If you're not already subscribed, then please hit that button. And hopefully I'll see you all on my next video, by which time it will be a little bit milder and a little bit warmer. Okay, so take care and thanks for watching.